I have another spooky story for you guys. This one is the creepiest, weird roommate story that I have ever heard. It's currently thunderstorming outside, so this is the perfect time to tell this weird, creepy story. So the person who submitted this does want to remain anonymous, so I will not tag them out of respect. Let's get going. Say hi. A couple of years ago, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate I found on a roommate app. I had talked to her several times before we decided to move in together. She seemed like a really normal girl. She was a grad student who just wanted a quiet place to sleep and study. Sounds normal. She was kind of reserved and mentioned that she really valued cleanliness. That sounded great to me because my worst fear was ending up with a rude and dirty roommate. We got along fine at first. She was hardly ever home, and when she was, she just stayed in her room with the door closed in silence. But by the second month, I noticed something was off. One night, I passed by her door to use the bathroom and noticed the door was cracked open and her light was on. I stopped just to say hi and see if she was okay since it was late, but what I saw chilled me to the bone. She was lying in bed on her back, face up, eyes wide open, and arms pinned to her side, just staring at the ceiling. Suddenly, she turned her head towards me and stared right into my eyes. I don't know how to describe it, but her face looked like her, but different. Her eyes seemed completely void of emotion, like they were made of glass. After holding eye contact for a few seconds, she turned her head back to stare at the ceiling, and I was finally able to move. I rushed back into my room and locked the door. The following morning, I passed by her door again, finally going to the bathroom, and noticed the door was closed with the light off. I typically didn't see her in the mornings because she would either sleep in or head to school early, so I assumed I could finish getting ready and exit the house without running into her. As I was grabbing my keys to head out the door, I noticed something in my peripheral. It was her, standing in the doorway, just staring at me. I tried to play off how creeped out I was by saying hi and asking her if she wanted a bagel, but all she did was head into the kitchen, ignoring me, and grab her bag and leave. Because of my work schedule, I usually get home pretty late, so I saw her doing the same thing, just staring at the ceiling multiple times. At this point, I thought this might be related to mental health, so one day I sat down with her to talk. I explained that I wanted to check in with her just to see why she seems to be staring at the ceiling all night and if maybe she would consider talking to someone so that she could start getting some sleep. You sound like a really nice person, and I hate that this happened to you. Despite being as delicate as possible, she completely lost it. She called me every name in the book, and when I didn't react, she started insulting me by revealing deep family secrets of mine that no one knew. The majority of our family didn't even know any of these things, much less all of them. And that includes me, because some of the stuff she said was brand new to me. Yet they were so specific and layered between secrets that I already knew to be true. I was so angry that I started crying and told her to go fuck herself, and I ran out the house. Later that day, I sent her a text telling her to either agree to leave the apartment or I would leave and she wouldn't be able to afford the rent by herself. No response. When I got home, I saw her sitting on the couch in the exact same spot she was in when I left. From behind the couch, I asked her where she heard the stuff about my family. Silently, she gets up, walks around the couch to face me, and stares directly past me, as if she was looking at something behind me. I shouted her name, hoping it would snap her out of whatever this was, but she didn't respond. She silently walked past me, went up to her room, and slammed the door. The next morning, her door was wide open, and all of her stuff was gone. This was shocking because I barely slept, yet I didn't hear a single peep from her all night. The only thing left in her room was a piece of paper with symbols and words written in a language that I didn't understand. Completely freaked out, of course, I called my mom on FaceTime and told her what happened. When I showed my mom the note, her face turned ghost white, and she immediately called her great aunt, also on FaceTime, who informed us that the note looked like dark magic and was likely a curse that was meant for me. She instructed me to create a salt circle around a fire pit and burn the note, among several other rituals that she told me to perform that would help protect me. After that, I never heard from my old roommate again. Now, I'm not one to believe in curses or the paranormal, but I can't deny that my life has been a series of tragedies ever since, starting with my mom's great aunt passing away 2 days after our conversation. This is why I never had a roommate. I've never had a roommate. I never wanted a roommate. I will never have a roommate. This is why, unless I really know the person. But do you really know somebody until you live with them? I don't think you do. I don't even know what to do with this. I'm going to defer to you guys' expertise. Does that note sound like it was a curse? Was her great aunt right? And I mean, it sounds like what she did afterwards to try to protect her didn't work. If you guys have any insight into what's going on here, leave it down below in the comments. I'm totally freaked out for the rest of the night.
Hey y'all, it's your favorite cousin with another spooky story. I want you to come on, get your snacks, and come sit down. Let's go. So this woman said that she's not somebody that believes in paranormal at all. That was until she moved in with her friend. She said her and her friend decided to become roommates. So she said strike one was when her brother was helping her move her bed into the apartment, and she says that she heard somebody say her name. Now, when she heard somebody say her name, she knew it couldn't have been her brother because her brother has a very deep and distinctive voice. And plus, he was in the same room as her. So, of course, she said that she was taken aback because she didn't know what was going on and her friend was at work. She said strike two was when she was on cleanup duty in the kitchen and she was doing dishes. She said that while she was doing dishes, she turned around to all of the burners being on the stove. Now, because she's not a paranormal person, she pretty much ignored it and turned off all the burners. We gonna talk. That wasn't nothing to ignore. That was crazy. Anyway, so she said after that, after she turned the burners off, she said that she walked to the living room and she decided she was going to do some homework. Now, while she's doing homework, she said she's on her laptop and she can see something in the reflection on her laptop. But she said that she pretty much chalked it up as, I'm really tired. I've been at studying for hours. So maybe I just need a break. My eyes need a break. So she said while she was shutting down her laptop, she looked in her laptop. It's dark now. The screen is dark because she shut it down, and she can see a reflection of something dark hanging from the ceiling. Did you ignore that one? She said that when she looked up at the figure, that it dove on her and that she was so paralyzed she couldn't move. She didn't know what was going on and she didn't know what to do next. She says that because her friend works a lot, her friend is a full-time worker and a full-time student. She said that her friend is never there for her to be able to, really talk to her about this kind of stuff. So, of course, what is she going to do? She said every day since she saw that thing hanging from the ceiling, it has done nothing but torment her, and she even sees it at school. She said that she saw it walking through the school library when she was doing her homework. Fast forward to, she's not religious, but her parents are. She said they're very, very religious. She calls them overly religious in the email. And she said that she thought being in their presence would help. So she decided that she was going to go home for a weekend. Girl. So since she was home for the weekend, she wanted to make fun out of it. So her family decided they were going to do family game night. After family game night, everybody got tired and everybody decided to go to sleep. Now, on her way up the stairs to her room, she said that the attic stairs were pulled down. Now, she said nobody ever goes in the attic, ever. Now, she says that she went up the ladder. And when she went up the ladder, she went ahead and she started scanning the attic, looking around. And she said while she was looking around, she saw red eyes staring back at her. And she, of course, tried to backpedal and hurry up and get back down the ladder. And she could not. She said before she knew it, she went flying down from out of the attic and she hit her head. Girl. She said at this point, she still didn't tell her parents. She decided that she was going to confide in her younger brother. She said that they're really close and she talks to him about everything. So she decided to tell him. She said while she was telling him, they were sitting in his room. And while they're sitting in his room, while he's playing his game and she's confiding in him, she said that the thing made itself known to him as well and stood there in his doorway. You need professional help. This is beyond me. This is crazy. This is crazy for real. Of course, the first thing I want to do is tell you to pray, especially if you said that your family, are real strong in faith and that they are Christians or actually Catholic, sorry, but still believe in God, still believe in Jesus. You really need to confide in your parents. That's who you need to be talking to. That's who you need to be talking to, because it may be something, I don't know. This is crazy. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't go to the seminary. I didn't go. I'm so sorry. This is nuts.
I experienced a sleep paralysis demon, so scary story time while I make slime. First ever sleep paralysis dream I had was when I was 14 years old. At least that's what I can remember. And when I tell you it was absolutely scary, get your money's worth and what? Let it drain. You already know. So that specific night, my cousins ended up going over their best friend's house, and I was left to sleep in my cousin's room all by myself. Now, one thing about my cousin's room, it was really, really dark when it got dark because there was no light in there. You had to either use a lamp or your phone flashlight. And at that time, I didn't even know where the lamp was or the phone flashlight. So I was like, no, I'm just going to sleep. Before I had went to sleep, I will always play beginner Bible stories on YouTube, and I literally went to sleep to that every single night. And the reason why I did was because I always felt like something was watching me for some reason. I could never explain it, but I felt like something was watching me. So this specific night, I lay down, I go to sleep like normal, and I want to say a good hour into me being asleep, I keep waking up out of my sleep for no reason. I just have a feeling that someone is watching me, and I can't explain it. And keep in mind, I'm in the room by myself, and it's pitch black, okay? So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pray myself back to sleep. So that's what I did. I was like, the blood of Jesus. I was saying Hail Marys to go to sleep. I prayed myself back to sleep. So after that, right, in my dream, I am stuck. And me and my neighbors were talking about this the other day. But bro, when you're experiencing sleep paralysis, it's like this, pressure that's holding you down that you can't freaking explain, and you feel it in your stomach. So before it even started, y'all, I felt the pressure in my stomach, and yes, my freaking shaving cream is activating my slime, but I felt the freaking pressure in my stomach before the sleep paralysis started. Okay, so I'm like, okay, this is weird. Literally in my dream, I'm like, this is weird, what's going on? And I remember somebody that I was talking to was like, you're not supposed to be aware. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were telling me in my dream, me talking to them and being consciously aware of what's happening is a bad thing. I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then out of nowhere, everything stops and I get jolted into the room that I am sleeping in, right? And I'm like, okay, this is strange. And I'm literally stuck in place. I can't move. And so I'm crying. And when I finally do get to move, I'm in this position where I'm looking down at my phone like this. And I literally, I'm getting goosebumps. Something tells me to turn my phone reflection to the back of me. And I literally am trying my best to even move my arm, y'all. I'm finally moved my arm, and there's this big black thing in the corner of my my cousin's room, and it's just staring at me, and I can't do anything about it. There's literally nothing I can do but sit here and take it. I'm literally just I'm trying my best, I'm breathing, I'm crying, and this as I'm turning the phone, it's jumping from one corner to the next until it's fully behind me. And when I tell you this thing is 10 feet tall, y'all, it was huge. Keep in mind, I was 14, and I know I did not imagine this, because when I woke up, I was in a cold sweat, and my room was just it had this not my room, but my cousin's room had this weird ominous vibe to it, and I immediately just got up and went to sleep in the living room. I remember waking up and everyone was like, why aren't you in the room? And I was like, no reason on why I'm not in the room. No reason. I think I overactivated this slime. Yeah, I think I should just let it rest. But yeah. Oops. Oh. Bye, guys.
I debated whether telling this story or not because it is so terrifying that I couldn't sleep for nights. I'm about to tell you one of the most haunted places in all of the Appalachia region. Not only that, but this tunnel right here is Sensabaugh Tunnel, and it is the most haunted tunnel in America. It's located in East Tennessee in an area called Church Hill. And if you're from that area, you know about Sensabaugh Tunnel, and you know never to go at night and don't go alone. Not only are there so many tales and stories of the supernatural happening around this tunnel, but there was actually a homicide that was committed right near this tunnel just a few years ago. Legend has it that back in the 20s, a man named Edward Sensabaugh owned this land that the tunnel was built on. At some point while living there, Edward went mad and he killed his wife and his children. One of them was a newborn baby, by drowning them in the creek right by the tunnel and then burying their bodies under the tunnel. Flash forward to today, and a lot of people, even the locals, don't use this tunnel because the creek that runs by there will overflow and flood, and the tunnel always has running water that moves through it. A lot of people also don't go just because of the crazy things that happen to them. I am one of those people, and I'm about to share my story with you. I was in high school, and this was around Halloween, and against my parents' wishes, I snuck out with one of my friends to go to Sensabaugh Tunnel just to see what it was all about. Now, what most people say they experience is that they drive into the tunnel, and if they turn their car off, the car won't turn back on. A lot of people say that they also hear a baby cry. Once we pulled up to the tunnel, I just had this very uneasy feeling, and I told my friend, we are not going to drive our car in there. I didn't want the possibility that our car was going to turn off and not restart. So I'm like, let's just get out with our flashlight and kind of explore the area. We got out of the car with our flashlights, and I was just kind of like looking around the top of the tunnel. There's trees everywhere. This is like back in the woods, okay? I kid you not, I see a massive barn owl up in the tree, and something about this owl just terrified me. I immediately wanted to turn around and go home, but my friend was like, Sydney, we drove all the way out here, like we at least have to go into the tunnel. We're walking through the tunnel, kind of shining our flashlights on the wall, and a lot of people have gone and written with graffiti and stuff, so there's all these messages: turn around, never come back, things like that. But we don't hear anything weird. I'm not hearing a baby crying like the legends say, anything like that. But as we go deeper into the tunnel, our flashlights start to flicker, and my friend's flashlight just turns off, and she can't get it to turn back on. It's at this point we are getting like, we're booking it back out of the tunnel. And then something even more terrifying happens. We begin to hear footsteps, and they're not coming from behind us. They're coming from like the top of the tunnel. By this point, I have almost peed my pants. We get back to the car, and there's this low hanging branch over the car. The owl is sitting in the branch right over our car. We get in, and I'm like, just go, please, please go. And as we're driving back down this tiny, narrow road out of the woods, her flashlight turns back on. To this day, I have not returned to Sensabaugh Tunnel. It is actually one of the most terrifying places I have ever been. Let me know in the comments if you've ever heard of Sensabaugh Tunnel, if you've ever been, and what experience you have. And also let me know if you want to hear about more legends surrounding the Appalachia.
This girl emailed me and she was like, my ex-boyfriend sold his soul or channeled a demon to become a successful rapper. So I wasn't actually going to post a lot this week because I'm actually at my mom's house. I'm in her guest bedroom, but this one's really good. So she told me that she met this guy in high school. They went to high school together. He dropped out. She graduated. And actually in high school, they weren't together because he actually had a baby with like some girl that she knew. Like they weren't really friends, but whatever. He has a baby with her. She graduates. He had dropped out to become a successful rapper and like work on his rap career. After they graduate, somehow they get together. I'm not really sure the details on that, but pretty soon after they get together, she gets kicked out of her family's house. I don't really know the details on that either, but she said it's not really relevant to the story. So she moves in pretty soon after they start dating with him, his mom, and then sometimes his daughter's there. They have virtually no money. He's working a little bit. She's working at the mall. She's going to work every day. She's trying to help him provide for his daughter, and he's working on his rap career when he's not at work. He does a song that goes semi-viral around 2020. That song got attention of a big producer who lives in Los Angeles. The producer's team reaches out to him and basically tells him, hey, we want to bring you out here. We want to like work with you. And he's all excited. He goes to her. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. She's like, you need to go, baby. They fly him out. He doesn't talk to her a lot that day, but he basically just tells her, like, I'm with these people, like, they're super important, they're teaching me everything I need to know. But he does FaceTime her that night while he's at the studio. He calls her the next morning. He's like, hey, I'm going to be pretty busy today. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to talk to you, but like, just so you know, everything is going really, really well. I'll tell you about it when I get home. He was supposed to fly home the next day. He was only there for 2 days. So he gets home. He's all excited. He says like, he's going to continue working with these people. I don't know if there was like a contract signed or whatever, but basically he's hook, line, and sinker. He's in with them. He tells her about the producer, and then he tells her about this girl that's like the producer's assistant or like part of his team. I'm not really sure her role, but we're just going to call her Jazz for the story. And Jazz has sort of been like the point of contact that her boyfriend is working with this whole time. Like, she's the one that reaches out on behalf of the producer. She's the one that makes all the travel arrangements. So the night that he gets home, after he tells her all about his trip, all about all the people, he just basically tells her, hey, I might be different for the next couple weeks because I'm in work mode. Like, this is what I'm doing now. I need to take it seriously. So like, don't be offended if I'm a little bit different or if I'm a little bit distant, because I'm not going to be able to dedicate as much time to you as I have in the past. She said up until that point, like, they really did have a good relationship. He was a good boyfriend. He always tried to make her feel special, even though he didn't have a lot of money. He would always tell her, like, I'm going to get big so that I can get us a nice house. I can get my mom a big house. Like, we're going to have a really, really good life. Like, you just have to believe in me. And she did believe in him. So it's a day after he gets home from his trip. She gets home from work. He's in his room doing like recording or whatever he does. She walks in the bedroom after work to like change her. He turns his to look at her and he's like, what the F are you doing? Get the F out of here. She said he had never talked to her like that. She was like taken aback. Like, what's going on? It was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, different person. So she's like, what is your problem? She's like, don't talk to me like that. And his face softens and he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I was just in the middle of something. He's like, I was just really, really into it. Like, you just surprised me. That's all. And so she's like, okay. Like, she lets it go because this is the first time it's ever happened. So she tries to be nice and she's like, well, show me what you're working on. Like, I'm invested. I want to know. So he brings his laptop over. They're sitting on the bed. He's playing her this song that he's been working on that I guess he worked on while he was in LA with these people. And his like iMessages pops up on his computer because she said his texts were linked to his MacBook. And the text is from Jazz. Like, she sees the name and the text says, let me know when you meet him and how he works for you, LOL. He X's the message out almost as soon as it pops up. Like, he did not want her to see it, she felt like. So she was like, what was that? Like, meet who? And he was like, oh, just another person that they work with. Don't worry about it. So she's like, okay, let's it go. Couple weeks go by. He has another trip to go out and meet these people and work with them. She takes him to the airport. She's like, let me know when you land. He's like, I will. I love you. Bye. Gets on the plane. He lands. He doesn't text her. She checks his location. They shared locations on the phone. She sees that he landed, but she figures he's busy. He got picked up as soon as he landed. She's also going into work, so she doesn't think about it. She goes to work. She checks her phone on her break. He still has not texted her. It's been like 4 hours. So she texts him. She's like, did you make it okay? Checks his location. He's somewhere else. Not the same address that he was at the first time he was there. So she's got like 30 minutes on her break. So she looks up the address in her Apple Maps or whatever, figures out it's a house. It's a nice house. She texts him again. She's like, just call me when you have a minute. No response. A couple hours later, she gets home from work. His mom's there. She's like, hey, have you heard from so-and-so, her ex? His mom's like, no, like, have you? And she's like, no. She's like, you should call him. So his mom calls him. He doesn't answer. The phone rings, so it's on, but he doesn't answer. So for the next 2 hours, her and her boyfriend's mom are trying to call him, but he's not answering. The phone's ringing. All the messages are being delivered. She goes like full FBI mode and she realizes that his iCloud login is logged into his mom's iPad because his mom didn't have one. She used his account to like get games, or she used it for something. So it was logged into her iPad. So she logs into his messages. At this point in the email, she told me she doesn't care if other people think it's wrong or sneaky because you would do it too if you were in her situation. And she's able to pull up all of his text messages between him and Jazz. She said when she first looked at the messages, she expected to find something like he was flirting with this girl or he was cheating or doing something scandalous. But actually it wasn't the case at all. There were no flirty text messages, but the messages were like super cryptic and just didn't make any sense to her. She scrolls all the way back to when Jazz texted him, let me know when you meet him and how he works for you, LOL. To which her boyfriend responded, I did meet him. He's already here. She said she couldn't make sense of a lot of the text messages, but there were other things that stood out to her. Like one text said, don't forget to practice what we taught you. Have you practiced today? There was another text that was sent at like 7 a.m. one morning when he was home, so not in LA. And it said, did you meet with him last night? How did you sleep? And there was another text because he had sent her a song clip that he was working on. And she had responded to the song clip saying, I can hear his influence clear in this one. The two of you are doing great things together. I'll send this to so-and-so, the producer, and I can't wait to see what the three of you do. So clearly they were talking about this other person that she had no idea who they were referring to because it wasn't the producer, it wasn't her boyfriend, and it wasn't Jazz. But he had been at home, like there was nobody else involved with this process. So she checks his location again. He's still at that same house. He doesn't respond to her that whole night. She doesn't sleep at all that night. He finally calls her around 7 in the morning. He's like, I'm so sorry, baby. Like, I was working. I was learning how to do all this stuff. Like, we were at the studio late. She's like, I know you weren't at the studio. Look, I can see your location. And he's like, oh, yeah, like, we were at his house. He tells her basically that he has another studio at his house and that they were mentoring him pretty late into the night. So he's there for a couple more days. He talked to her the whole time. She didn't get any weird vibes or anything. She picks him up a couple days later when he flies home. He gets in the car from the airport. He leans over to hug her. He pulls away. She notices like 3 burn marks on his arm. She said she would have thought it was like from like a straightener or like a curling iron, but it was like right in the middle of his forearm, like right here. She's like, what's this? He's like, oh, I scratched myself. She's like, it looks like a burn. He's like, no, I scratched myself. He brushes it off. He's like, oh my God, the biggest things are happening. Like, I'm going to be able to like, get us this house. I'm going to be able to get my mom a house. Basically, he's so excited. She doesn't want to ruin his thunder. So she's just like, okay, cool. They get home. She's all excited. She thinks they're going to have like a nice night together because she hasn't seen him in a few days. And he pretty much shuts himself immediately in the room. He's like, I have to work. I have to do this stuff. He doesn't really come out the whole night. She goes in the room later to check on him, to like hang out. He's already asleep in bed, but he's like mumbling in his sleep. She tries to wake him up because she's like, I want to hang. He mumbles louder, but she said it wasn't real words. It was like not even a real language, but he was just making these noises with his mouth. She just gets in bed next to him. She tries to fall asleep, but his mumbling intensifies. She's having a hard time sleeping. She finally falls asleep. She's woken up before the sun comes up because he grabs her in his sleep and he says, you can't take her too. She wakes him up. She's like, you're dreaming. He wakes up. He's like, I'm sorry. I don't even know what I was dreaming about. They fall back asleep. At some point in the night, he wakes up again and basically tries to like force himself on her. She basically tells him, no, I'm sleeping, to which like he had a bad reaction. She said she looked at him. His eyes were fully open. Like he was awake. She's like, what are you doing? And he then like snapped out of it. And he was like, I'm sorry. I must have been dreaming. Over the next couple of weeks, his anger and his temper intensifies. He's pretty much always locked in his room working. He's constantly snapping at her, his mom, and his daughter. At one point, he yelled at his little daughter so loud that it scared her. She was crying. She ran to her to comfort her. So now she's like taking care of his daughter pretty much all the time. And then it comes time for him to go back to LA. So she's like, I want to go with you this time. He's like, okay, cool. They get to the airport. Board the plane. He brings a water bottle that he bought at the airport onto the plane. He gets up before the plane takes off to go to the bathroom. While he's in the bathroom, she takes a sip of his water. He comes back, sees that she took a drink of his water bottle, and he just like flips on her. And he's like, he didn't say that you could have any of his water. And she's like, who? This is yours. And then she said it was like a change again. Like she saw his eyes change and he was like, I'm sorry, like you can drink my water. Then she's like, okay, this person has like split personality. She lets it go. They get there. She goes to the studio with him. Everything's fine. She meets Jazz. Jazz is really, really cold to her, keeps talking to her boyfriend, but like is like very dismissive of anything that she says. She keeps making like inside jokes with him, and then she tells him after they're done that it's time for her to go back to the hotel while he comes over for mentoring. And the girl that emailed me is like, absolutely not, like I'm going with you. Her boyfriend looks torn. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna bring her, like we'll drive separate. We're gonna go back to our hotel first and then we'll meet you guys over there. They go back to the hotel. He's trying to convince her to stay at the hotel. He's like, you really don't want to be over there while they're just giving me tips and tricks about the industry. She's like, no, I want to go. They go back and forth for a little bit. Finally, he's like, okay, you can come, but there's something I have to tell you. Every time I've been out here, we've been doing rituals. They showed me something that I can do to channel a better part of myself. And she said immediately she did not like this, red flags, because she believes in God. She doesn't think that you should be channeling anything. She tells him this. He's like, no, but like, look at my life since I've started doing it. Like everything is getting better. He said, basically, I have to turn him on when I work, and that's the only way that we're going to be successful. He said, you believed in me then, believe in me now. She goes, I don't want any part of this. She decides she's going to stay at the hotel while he goes over there. He doesn't come back to the hotel that night. He did go on to be relatively successful at music. She ended up breaking up with him because she couldn't deal with his like personality changes. She did give me the details of their breakup, and then he went on to date Jazz. If you want those other details, I can provide them, but I was running out of time, so tried to get the juicy parts of the story in this video. I don't know. I always just feel like the devil selling stories are like the creepiest ones that I get on here. So keep sending me your spooky scary stories. I'll keep adding them to this playlist.
Here's all the paranormal activity I've experienced in a nutshell while I make slime. First things up, young Kishi. I always pronounce her name wrong and I have to call my grandma for it, but I don't feel like calling her right now. Now, for those of you who are OGs, you know, first of all, get your money's worth and what? Let it drain. Back to what I was saying. Those of you who are like OGs know young Kishi and how my grandmother mainly believes that I was reincarnated. Look at my Miko babies. Miko, she has a heart on her ear. Isn't she so special? We're gonna do green and blue. But for those of you who know nothing about that story, basically when I was around like maybe 3 years old, I started basically not making sense when I was talking. So I would be talking about things that I shouldn't have had no business knowing, and I kept, whenever like people would call me by my government name, I wouldn't answer, and I would tell them that my name was Young Kishi. I would cry saying I miss my mom and my dad, and this happened all the way up until I was like maybe 5 or 6 years old, and then out of nowhere we just stopped hearing about Young Kishi. This is because my Grandma wholeheartedly believes my auntie helped her pass over. Now, you don't have to believe the stories that I tell, but this is just what I've experienced throughout my life, okay? So the next thing we're going to jump into is the imaginary friends. Now, we all have seen jokes about how if our child talks about how they have an imaginary friend and it's this big black creature, we're going to run out of our lives. And that's what happened to me. But these things manifested themselves as the Disney princesses. So, for example, one day I was playing with my dolls, and I don't know why I said for example, but one day I was playing with my dolls when I first heard them. And at first they did not sound like the Disney princesses, and then they did. So it was like, I don't know. After that, I would literally talk to them 24/7. And I remember my grandma like walked in on me one time talking to them, and she was like, "Oh, who are you talking to?" And I was like, "Oh, like the Disney princesses." And she thought that, like, you know, it was my imagination. Keep in mind, this goes on for a good, I want to say, year. So up until I'm in the car with my mom and my grandma, and out of nowhere, I hear a voice say, like, roll down the window. So I roll down the window, and I'm literally talking to like 3 of these things, and it was, I can't remember who were the princesses, but yeah, I'm talking to them, and they were like, "You should just jump out the car and be with us." And I'm like, "Oh no, I can't do that, like I'm gonna get in trouble." Keep in mind, it's the middle of the night, we're driving, I roll down the window, and I'm talking to nothing outside. So I'm like, "Oh no, like I can't do that, like I'm gonna get in trouble, my grandma's gonna get mad." And my mom goes, "Who are you talking to back there?" And I was like, "Oh, the Disney princesses." And this is where, like, my grandma, before this situation happened, she realized that the Disney princesses might be somebody or whatever. But this is what really made her believe it, because I was like, "Oh no, like my parents, my grandma, they're gonna get mad at me." And my grandma was like, "What are they telling you to do?" And I was like, "Oh, they want me to jump out the window." Keep in mind, I have to be ages like 6 through 8, okay? So I'm like, "Oh yeah, they want me to jump out the window." And so immediately my grandma's like, "No, don't listen to them." She rolls up the window, and I'm like, "But they keep telling me to." And my grandma sounds like she's like freaking out at this moment, because when I tell y'all, they were like literally like screaming at me to jump out the window. And then when they rolled up the window, they got in the car. So this is where my grandma started like praying, and yeah. So next we have, whenever I would visit a hospital, I would always bring someone back with me, and this is why to this day I don't like going to the hospital. So the first time that this happened was I was at the hospital for, I forgot who was there, but I was there, and I remember I seen this little girl, and me and her are talking, and obviously I don't know that she's not with us anymore. Me and her are talking, and I don't know why this slime won't activate. And out of nowhere, it was time for us to leave. So we are leaving, and she following me out the door, and I'm looking like, nobody see this white kid following us out the door, a black family and this white kid following us. So I told her, I said, "You need to go back to your family." And obviously she didn't listen to me. So we walk into the car. I'm thinking she gonna disperse one day, you know, she not gonna get in the car with us. But no, she gets in the car with us. And I remember like looking at my family members, and I'm like, "Y'all see her? She looking at me. Y'all see her?" And I remember like saying something about it, but since I believe it was like a tough time, no one really believed me. And she rode halfway home with us, and then she just disappeared. Yeah. And another situation happened like that. Same situation, different kid. Yeah. This happened from ages like maybe 9 to 12. So the next time period is when I started to see relatives that I didn't even know were relatives. I started to have dreams about them, and then one day, like, I'll be sitting down with my family, and they'll be showing pictures of a great-great-grandmother, and I'm like, "Oh, look at Sharkeisha." Once I hit age like 16 and 17, I just mainly started to feel them in the room with me, because before I would see them, and sometimes I do still see them, but now it's mainly like feeling them in the room with me, and I have goosebumps now. Obviously I have way more stories, but I can't fit them all into like one video because I don't have space. So yeah,
I don't know if this can top the Peking Wife, but it's definitely up there. This is awful, and I would hate for this to happen. So there's a woman, and she's a nurse, and she thinks everything is happening during a particular time where she's doing a lot of back-to-back shifts. She's working like 16, 18 hours, very sleep deprived, spending very little hours at home. She's coming home, she's finding lights off, and she's like, "I'm sure I turned that off, but maybe I'm sleep deprived." There's like food wrappers on the floor, and she's like, "Oh, maybe it fell out of my bag." Toilet lid being left up. "Oh, I don't live with any men. Why is that happening? Like, things aren't making sense. But she's like, I'm so sleep deprived from my hard work that maybe I'm just doing this myself. I can't wait for a week off, basically. Things started happening in the night now. And there's a time when she got woken up by a sound. And she didn't know what that sound was. But then she just had a feeling that, you know that feeling, that something is watching you in your room. Like, you get it at like the bottom of your spine and you just like, I can't shake this feeling until I do my thorough check. So she turns on her torchlight and she's like going all the corners of the room, looking at that chair filled with clothes, looking under the bed. Nothing's there. And she's like, that's fine. She wakes up the next morning, kind of forgets what happened the night before. Don't we all? And she goes about a day until she sees her keys, which are in the centre of her hallway floor. Now, she's got no pets. And, you know, keys make noise. And she's like, I always put my keys in the bowl next to my front door. How are they here? It's like somebody would have had to have placed them there. And then she's like, maybe that's the sound that woke me up in the middle of the night. She's like, but how did it get there? It doesn't make sense. She's growing more concerned because when she comes back from work, like, her windows are being left open. There's clothes that she hasn't worn being left out, like, in her room. And she's growing more and more scared that somebody's entering her apartment while she's at work, knowing that she's a nurse on, like, really long hour shifts, and, like, living in her house, like, eating her food rent-free. So she confides in her friends, her family, and her work friends because she spends all her time at work. Her friends are reassuring her, like, look, no one's going to be living in your apartment. It's really small and you'd really notice something. So maybe, if anything, someone's entering your apartment. Why don't you, like, get one of those little, like, dog or cat webcams, security cameras, like, hide it somewhere and speak to the doorman and get him to check the CCTV to see if people are coming and going. So she does exactly that. She goes to the doorman and she's like, can you just check to see if people are entering my apartment? I'm really concerned. He looks at the CCTV and is like, no, nothing's there. But it's also only, like, motion activated. So then he's like, maybe speak to your landlord to see if they have a key or if you can get to your apartment from other apartments. Like, some of them have, like, secret doorways apparently behind mirrors and loft spaces. So she speaks to her landlord. Her landlord's like, no, nothing's happened like this before. As far as I'm concerned, no one can enter your space. You've got no loft space. The guy owned the next two apartments next to him. And it's like, you're welcome to go speak to them to see if they're experiencing anything. But this woman was alone in her experiences. And he's just like, look, I can reassure you that no one's living in your apartment. If it makes you feel comfortable, I will change the keys for you. So he does that. She accepts. He does that. And she also gets herself a couple of little cameras. As soon as the locks were changed, nothing happened. And she was adamant that somebody had been entering an apartment and stealing from her. And she was like, it is what it is. It's done now. And she tells the doorman and her neighbours, and she's like, just be vigilant because somebody was coming into my apartment. And things just kind of stopped happening for a little while. Until one night, she hears a sound. Now, she's awake and she's like doom scrolling on her phone like we all do. And she hears a sound and she's like, I've heard this sound before. This is the sound that woke me up. And she's like, she's just still in bed and she's so scared to get out how she can hear, like, noises. And she's so scared and she shouts out, like, hello, is anyone there? And the noises stop. And then after she hears, like, music playing, but from a different apartment, and she's like, okay, I'm just hearing one of my neighbours. A couple of nights later, again, she's on her phone, and she sees what she thinks is like a shadow, like, move under her doorway. And she's like, did I really just see that? So she gets her phone, she walks to the doorway, and she's like, open the door really quickly. Nothing's there. And she's like, no, this, like, something's messing about with me. During, like, the same 10 minutes all of this is happening, she's like, I'm going to check my CCTV because I've been hearing some noises the past couple of nights. I've still kept these cameras on. I'm going to check them. So she pulls up the footage. Night one, when she heard the music coming from her neighbour's house, she sees a figure, like, enter her hallway and just stand at her bedroom door. Just stands there for about 6-7 minutes. The day after, the same thing. Pressed up to this woman's door, just staring at her. 4 nights in a row until she lands on the night that she's on. And within minutes of her seeing this thing, she's called the police, being like, somebody was just in my apartment. I've got CCTV footage. I'm scared that they're there now. Please come. The police come, they check the apartment fully, and she's like, look, This footage is from like 20 minutes ago now. I haven't heard anybody leave. Like, so somebody's in my apartment. So they do a thorough check. They don't find anything. No evidence that anybody was ever there. And she's like, look at the CCTV footage. So they look at it and like, it could be a glitch. You know, sometimes security cameras, like they pick up other feeds if other people in this apartment or even like a neighbouring building have the same like camera, maybe it's picking up theirs. And she's like, look, this is my apartment. That's my bedroom door. Somebody was there. And they're like, maybe it's a glitch, you know. She's like, look, I'm not staying here. She goes to her friend's house. She stays there the night. And then she's like, the next day, I'm going to go fetch some clothes. Now, there was no wife, like, peeking under the bed this time. But when she goes back to her apartment, everything's in place. Everything's fine, normal. Except a door key on the pillow of her bed. No. What was it? That's what I want to know. If somebody was like living in her apartment, rent-free, stealing her food, you know, that's one thing. But standing at someone's bedroom door for 7 minutes, just disappearing into thin air, but then leaving a key, that's taunting. No. I've got shivers. No.
Okay, I got you. But put your big girl panties on because this one is terrifying. This story didn't personally happen to me, but I have to share it with you all because it is one of the scariest stories I have ever heard. I'm also going to preface this by saying I can't give exact locations or name of patients, but this also happened in the Appalachia region. So one of my really good friends, we will call him Bob, was working as a paramedic. The dispatcher was like, we just got a call. We need you to run out to this house. The patient wasn't saying anything. They were just breathing really heavy on the other end of the phone. So Bob was like, okay, just some heavy breathing on the other end of the phone. But anytime there's a call, they have to go respond. I mean, this person could have been in such respiratory distress that they really needed medical help. They pull up to the house. It's this super long driveway and it's actually a big, massive home. But he said as soon as he pulled up, it just didn't feel right. Like, even though the house was huge, it had been like run down. Like there was a lot of weeds in the front yard. The grass was super overgrown and there was an in-ground pool, but the pool had been drained of all the water and there was like weeds and stuff coming up through the cement of the pool. Bob and his partner go inside the home. Everything is dark. The only thing that's lit up inside the house is a TV, and it's not like a new flat screen TV. It's one of those old box TVs, and it's on just like the white static. He's immediately creeped out, but he's like yelling for the patient, like, hello, EMS here, someone called out, labored breathing, hello. Nobody answers. So they kind of start searching the house to find the patient. Bob and his partner walk upstairs and they hear a door in the hallway creak open very slowly. This frail little lady is in one of those little electric wheelchairs with like the little bloop, bloop, bloop. And she just slowly comes out of this door, but she doesn't say anything. They're like, ma'am, EMS here. Are you okay? How can we help you? She doesn't say a peep. She reaches into her jacket pocket and pulls out a note that says, help, he has a gun. This is when Bob actually starts panicking and he was like, this is becoming too much for us and we need police backup. Bob said he was going to try to pick up the little old lady out of her electric wheelchair to take her downstairs and get her to safety. But as soon as him and his partner started to do that, he heard noise coming from another bedroom upstairs. It was at this time Bob made the decision, we've got to go get backup. Like, we need additional help or we're all going to get hurt. Him and his partner speed outside to get back into the truck. And as they were running outside towards the truck, they heard one of the bedroom windows open and a man yelling at them to get the heck off of their property. This is the craziest part though. Bob gets back in his truck, starts to leave the driveway to get to safety, calls police. Police are dispatched to the house. Nobody's there. The house had been foreclosed on years ago and nobody lived at that residence. I'm like, Bob, you are making this up. He's like, Sydney, no, I swear to God, I know what I saw. There was a lady in there. There was a man, possibly with a gun, because I heard noise coming from another bedroom and he was shouting at me as I was leaving the property. So, I don't know, but it still gives me chills. It still terrifies me. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments. And if you want to hear more spooky stories, then follow along. I got you.
Lanier is a man-made lake in northern Georgia that is also supposedly really, really haunted. I just did a video on Lake Tahoe, and you guys were like, look into Lake Lanier. And so I did, and the history is really, really horrible and really, really sad. So in 1956, the Army Corps of Engineers decided they wanted to build this lake, but in doing so, they had to flood entire towns, including Oscarville, which was once a thriving and predominantly Black community. And in flooding the lake, they also flooded a ton of businesses and churches and cemeteries. And supposedly they moved the graves, but some investigative reporting proved that there were hundreds of graves that were never removed. So now when people swim in the lake, they are literally swimming over unmarked, unrested graves. And since the lake's creation, it has claimed over 700 lives. The number rises every year, and it's not just drowning. Like, people have reported boats capsizing for no reason, people being pulled underwater in calm water, and cars driving over bridges veering off into the water for apparently no reason. Many people have reported feeling their ankles grabbed and being dragged underwater, and then when they look, there's nobody there. Locals swear that the lake is haunted by those who were displaced in their resting place and those who never got out, but the most infamous is the lady Lake, who is a woman in a blue dress who walks the bridge close to the waterway. In 1958, 2 women crashed off Lanier Bridge, and one woman was discovered months later, and the other woman wasn't found until 31 years later, when a construction worker discovered her remains still wearing a blue dress. Before and after her discovery, dozens of people have reported seeing this woman walking either on the water or on the bridge. But it's not just her. Like, people say this lake is cursed from a million different people. In 2012, a construction crew literally quit after their equipment kept failing, and one of the construction crew members saw a man's face under the water calling for help in perfect English before disappearing under the water, and there was no one there. Like, the construction crew quit. Under the water, there are entire buildings. It is a sunken ghost town. One diver who explored deep sections of the lake described it as City of the Dead. From everything I've read about it, Lake Lanier was never meant to be a lake, and it does not want to be disturbed.
I think this is the most terrifying story I've ever heard. One of my old high school friends just called me, and I actually had to pull the car over because she told me a story that she wants me to share with you guys that has me absolutely floored. She said that her and a couple of her girlfriends went to a cabin outside of Banner Elk, North Carolina, which is in the Appalachian Mountains. They were staying at her friend's family cabin out there, and again, this is a family cabin, but they rent it out and let other family members and friends use it. She said the cabin was really quaint and cozy. There was 2 bedrooms downstairs and like a kitchen, living room area, and then there was a loft upstairs that you have to climb like a ladder to get up to. The first night they just hung out. They were drinking some wine, gossiping, catching up with one another, that kind of thing. And she said everyone went to bed. So 2 girls slept in one room, 2 girls slept in the other room, and they just left the loft open. She said in the middle of the night she couldn't sleep because she woke up and was absolutely freezing. She walked out into the living room area just to check like the heater or whatever, and it said it was set to 72 degrees and the thermostat read 72, but she was so cold she could see her breath. She ended up just putting on like a bunch of extra sweatshirts and found some extra blankets in the closet and went back to her room and fell asleep. The next day they woke up and they're just kind of like drinking their coffee, looking around the cabin, and they find this like guest book that was sitting at the entryway of the cabin. Next to the guest book was like a Polaroid camera that they could use like whenever family would come and stay. They would write like a little note, whatever, take a Polaroid picture and leave it in the book. She said they're like looking through it and her friend's like, oh yeah, this is my uncle so-and-so and these are old friends from like wherever. But then they got to one page and there was this picture of a guy that her friend did not recognize, and she's like, I don't know who this guy is. And the only message he wrote is, I love it. I wish I could stay here forever. The other odd thing is in the picture, it was like a selfie picture that he took with the Polaroid, and he was missing his index finger. So he was just like, hi, but the index finger was missing. The friend was like, this is not someone that we know. So she takes a picture of the Polaroid picture and like the handwriting and sends it to her mom and is like, who is this guy? The mom had no idea. The mom was like, I honestly have no clue who that is. The friend was like a little uneasy by this, but she's like, okay, I mean, I don't know, weird, but whatever. Nothing strange happened the rest of the day, and then they go to bed that night, and this is when things get really strange. She wakes up in the middle of the night again, freezing. This time she wakes up her friend, and she was like, why is it so cold in here? Her friend was like, I don't know, you're right, it's absolutely freezing. They get up to get more blankets again, and then they start hearing footsteps in the loft above. They are obviously freaking terrified at this point. They run out of their room and run across the living room into the other girls' rooms to wake them up. They're like, something crazy is going on. We're hearing footsteps up in the loft. It is freezing in here. So they all just kind of huddle together and stay hidden in that room together. One of the girls is like, we need to call the cops right now. But then the girl who owned the cabin was like, no. it could just be a raccoon, it could be anything like that. So let me just peek out and see if I see anything. So she opens the door and is able to kind of like look up into the loft area, and she doesn't see anything. As soon as the sun comes up, they work up the nerve to get out of the bedroom, and one of the friends decides she's going to go up and just see what's up in the loft. There's nothing up there. Nothing seems out of place. She's like looking around. She doesn't see that anything's fallen or that anything's out, out of the ordinary. But then there's a window, and on the inside of the window are 4 fingerprints sliding down the glass. She climbs back down the ladder. She is screaming. She is freaking out because she said she saw them appear and slide down the glass. They waste no time. They just grab their things, get in the car, and go home. I'm still sitting here just like, I just cannot believe this story. What do you guys think about this? What do you think it could be? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories, just follow along.
Scary story time sent in by a fan, hiker edition. Y'all already know, get your money's worth in what? Let it drain. Let it drain. Yeah. Now we gonna call this person Josh. And Josh, he liked hiking. He liked going on hikes, but he wasn't like a hardcore hiker. Like, he was one of those hikers that would just do like the 1 mile, 2 mile hikes. So that's what he did. He went to this one trail that was like maybe an hour or so away from his house. And when he pulled into the parking lot, this is when he realized that it was only his and another person's car there. So it was only 2 cars in total in the parking lot. And this is his vibe. He's gonna have the trail to himself. He don't gotta worry about people. He antisocial. He gets on the trail, he chilling, he minding his business, he's walking, and about like 5 minutes into the trail, this is when he notices that, somebody's behind him. He keep hearing footsteps. Oh my gosh, I dropped that. But he keep hearing footsteps behind him. But he brushing past it because it's like, okay, like this other person is walking the trail with me. Now, for about a good, it's been like 30 minutes at this point. Not 30 minutes, but it's been some time, and this person is still walking behind him, but he can't see him. So he decided that he was gonna go to the side of the trail and act like he was going on his phone. And he stood there for about 30 seconds, and he couldn't hear no footsteps. He couldn't see the person. Nobody went past him. And this is what made him be like, okay, this is weird. So when he got back on the trail, he became hyper aware, and guess what? He started to hear the footsteps again. And when he looked back to the tree, this is when he seen a man just standing there, with some distance between them, but he was just standing there. He wasn't even walking. He was just standing there, y'all. So he started walking again, and he's like, there's no way this man is just standing there staring at me. That's just creepy. So he keep walking, and it kind of loops back around so he can see kind of through the trees, and he sees the man with the same distance just standing there, and he swears that he seen that man tilt his head like, I'm coming to get you. Now this freaked him out, so he sped the pace up, and thankfully the trail was one of those trails that kind of looped back around to the parking lot. And when he did it, or when the trail did it, he made it back, and he was the only car in the parking lot. There was no second car, y'all. To this day, this man don't know what happened. Ooh, that was gooey. But to this day, this man don't know what happened. He don't know who was on the trail with him, and he honestly don't know how that person could have possibly made it out before him when they were behind him the entire time. That's just creepy. And guess what? Josh stopped going on hikes alone after that, because that was good enough to scare him at that point. And y'all, I always say this at the end of my videos, but I do need to get some new activator, because what is this? The slime is just super sticky, but maybe I should let it rest.
This story is about a girl that was SA'd by an incubus. D word. This definitely may be triggering for some people. I'm definitely going to try to keep the story as PG or PG-13 as possible. The person who submitted this does want to be anonymous. We're going to call her Kelly. The first time it happened, I woke up in the morning, I went to use the bathroom, and I realized that something felt off. I felt as if I had been intimate with someone, which made no sense considering that I lived alone and I had been celibate for the past 3 years. Not like your average, being intimate with someone. It felt like she was in pain. Confused, she tried to figure out why her body felt like that, but then decided to just kind of shrug it off. A month later, I was talking to one of my church members about all different topics when incubus and succubus came up. The minute she explained what they were, my mind went right back to that morning when I woke up feeling like I had been intimate with someone. Now fast forward a few weeks, and I happen to wake up in the middle of the night. I go to reach for my phone and I feel it again. I feel as if I have been intimate with someone, but this time I'm in even more pain than before. I completely panicked, but still tried to calm myself down by just trying to like rationalize it and just say that maybe my body was just going through something, or maybe I was just imagining all of it. Things really escalated one night when my sister happened to sleep over. She was sleeping out in the living room and I slept in my room. I happened to wake up at around 2 a.m. feeling like I was being dragged out of bed. And not like I had rolled out of bed, like I was physically being dragged out of bed, like with sheets and everything. I would have tried to convince myself that I was dreaming, except that my sister walked in, and when she did, she froze. She said that she had heard the voice of a male coming from my room. She said it was this very heavy, deep male voice that she heard talking in my room. Completely terrified, I decided to call the same lady from church that had first told me about the incubus and the succubus, and I explained the situation. She stayed up with me for the rest of that night, praying and rebuking it out of my home. It took a few tries. I even had some of the members from the church come to my home on multiple occasions to pray and pray over me until I eventually stopped coming to visit. This happened about 6 years ago and I have not seen it since. Has anything like this ever happened to you? I mean, I've had a few close calls where I felt like certain weird things around me, but I'm usually able to kind of make it go away. But from what I hear, this is like more common than you think.
I've always said that people are far more scarier than paranormal supernatural stories. But the stories that scare me the most are people that practice the occult. I saw a clip today that made me go down a huge deep dive. The clip came from the James English podcast, where he speaks to a witch that describes her time in a cult. She is on TikTok. She's called The Witch Assist. Go and look at her channel. But seeing this clip made me go on a deep dive, and I wish I never went on it, in all honesty. I'll tell you about this particular event that stood out to me. In short, this lady from Liverpool who says that she's a witch wanted to get involved in fashion, and while she was getting in the industry, getting to know people, she kind of found herself in a group that were spiritualists, not the positive type. Definitely go on her channel or listen to the full 2-hour James English podcast where she tells about her story, because honestly, it's wild. Essentially, she seems to get involved in a cult of the occult. I don't want to say Satanists because they get a big bad rep, but she says that there's lots of very well-known faces and names that are part of this organisation. She witnessed some really disturbing things, and she kind of had these jobs to deliver envelopes, which were like stages and rounds to go on to events. Honestly, it's a bit of a deep dive. Definitely go and listen to it yourself. But something stood out to me in particular, because people have witnessed this all around the world, and there's clips of people talking about their experience and witness something like this. She was at a ritual, is what she calls them, and it seems like a networking social events. There's lots of activity going on, lots of women, lots of high up people, and at a certain time they bring lots of platter with food out. Then she says she sees laying on a table a human. This human was no longer alive. It was of a larger man. She does go into quite a lot of detail in the podcast and on the clip on TikTok. I don't want to say it on here because it is quite graphic. But he was on display, some organs were out. He was the main feature of this feast, and they decorated him with flowers and grapes, and people were eating it. Now, when she saw this, she screams, and somebody took her to the side and was saying, "You're making a scene of yourself. Stop doing this. It's just art." And they kept on saying to her, "It's just art and you're making a scene." But she says she knows what art looks like, and that was not art, it was a human. They then take her to the side room and they give her this drink, and she wakes up in a hotel room the next day, and she knows from that point she has to get out. Now, the story for her goes on from there about how she tries to leave this cult. But she is not alone when witnessing people feast on people. It's been a theory for many years that higher ups, like the Illuminati and celebrities, have indulged in humans. How can I make this a bit of gallows humour? But then I find clips of people in similar industries to herself, like modelling and early acting careers, that never made it, or they were cancelled because they say they witnessed things like this. In fact, there's quite a popular clip, I think it's from the early 2000s, of a Spanish model, up-and-coming model, that runs out of a hotel screaming to the press and media because they know who's in the hotel, because they're all famous names. She's screaming to everyone, they're eating people, they're eating humans, and she's just shunned. She's never worked in the industry again, and she's known as a crazy woman. She was just on drugs, she was just drinking. This is when I say you go into a deep dive when looking at things like this. The Witcher sisters say that it's not the Illuminati, it's something else. What do you think it is? Because personally, I don't think that it's got anything to do with the occult, and I don't think that they really ever practice any sort of magic. They just think they are. I think they do these things in that name so they can kind of get away with it in a group setting, but really I just think they're sick individuals that have lots of power, lots of money, and do what they want. Because when you have power, you push the limits, and what's the worst thing you can do? They do it in these groups. Everything that's wrong in the world, these groups do, and they all allow each other to do it. That's scary. That's far more scarier than any supernatural or paranormal story. What do you guys think?
Let's talk about another haunted doll. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and recently I was sitting down with one of my friends, and she told me legitimately the most terrifying ghost story I've ever heard about a haunted doll. So let's get into it. So here's the context of how the doll got to her and her family. Essentially, her neighbor was moving away and was like, hey, I can't take this doll with me. Can you guys keep her for me? I don't know why this neighbor would give them the doll. I don't know. And unfortunately, this doll wasn't like a Raggedy Ann doll. This was a large porcelain vintage doll. So my friend and her family agreed to keep the doll for their neighbor. And my friend specifically says that when they started having the doll in their home, there was just like some weird energy going on around the doll. And they specifically started to notice, and this gives me chills, that the doll's fingers started falling off. Like porcelain fingers would go missing. And they had no idea where the fingers were going. They were never able to find them. And just as a reminder, this wasn't a tiny porcelain doll where like the fingers could go missing if you like bumped it wrong. This was a pretty big porcelain doll from my understanding. Eventually it got to the point, I don't know how long into them having the doll where they decided to get rid of it, but it was essentially, this doll's really weird and it freaks us out and there's something wrong with it. So I'm pretty sure they donated it. So if you need to decide to not buy things from thrift stores, especially porcelain dolls, that was it. But it gets worse. So my friend was doing her laundry, and the way that their house is set up, the washer and dryer are in the basement where the doll used to be. She's just doing her thing, when out of the corner of her eye, she sees this little thing run. And it was wearing the same color dress that the porcelain doll had, and it was about the same size as the porcelain doll. And my friend said after that experience, she refused to do anything in the basement or do her laundry in the basement for a long time. And that she still hates going down there. And I don't know what it is about seeing things out of the corner of your eye. Way scarier than I think seeing something at face value. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.